And welcome to the Breakfast Blend with Mac and Morgan. Games, news, coffee. I'm Mac.
I'm Morgan.
In today's news, the senior producer of the Saints Row franchise made a statement yesterday in which he claimed that the juvenile tone of the series has not had a negative impact on sales. Saints Row III, an open-world game in which you can dress like a hot dog, fire prostitutes from giant cannons, and beat people to death with a 3-foot purple dildo, has sold over 4 million copies. According to producer Jim Boone, not only have the prepubescent shenanigans not hurt sales, but they are a major contributor to the franchise's success. In related news, water continues to be wet. In a press release to investors, developer Capcom has lowered their sales predictions for the latest Resident Evil and Devil May Cry titles. Among the reasons cited were a lack of communications between overseas divisions, insufficient response to the developing digital content market, and that Namco and Square Enix were, quote, mean poopheads who always steal our lunch money. When asked if their business model of selling half-assed updates as separate games had anything to do with it, Capcom pretended that they had heard their mother calling them and therefore needed to leave. Peter Molyneux stated in a free-to-play summit that the features of a free-to-play game need to be included in the design from the beginning of the development, not tacked on after release. The fact that nearly every game that has added free-to-play features after release has seen an increase in sales should in no way deter people from taking Mr. Molyneux seriously. The director for product marketing for Nintendo explains why Nintendo continues to churn out Mario and Zelda games. Apparently it's because you fuckers keep buying them. Gordon Van Dyke, a former employee of DICE, the makers of Battlefield, used his Twitter account to question whether DICE had the, quote, balls to make a sequel to the futuristic Battlefield 2142, rather than another game set in the modern era. A bold challenge, not at all diminished by the fact that Mr. Van Dyke's current game is set in 15th century England. The first real DLC for Arkane Studios' Dishonored was released this week, and many gamers are upset because nothing in the description of the DLC makes it clear that this is only the first half of a two-part story. When asked to comment, Arkane Studios stated, "We never said it wasn't a multi-part DLC. This is off the record, right?" And finally, a library in Illinois asserted the right to free speech and expression by resisting the efforts of a citizens group which wanted M-rated video games removed from the library's catalog. Local residents are anxiously awaiting the inevitable Asian porn section. All right, so let's go back into these individual. Okay, so I honestly can't even believe that the producer for Saints Row had to clarify that. That the fact that we do dumb shit in our games, that our games are about fulfilling adolescent fantasies and whatever. I mean, shit, have you played any of those games?
No.
I enjoy them. I really do. In fact, when the first one came out, I picked it up literally because I knew that it was a Grand Theft clone, and there just wasn't a Grand Theft available at the time for the 360. And I picked up, and yeah, it was rough around the edges, but it was still fun. And they had the one feature that that has always pissed me off about Grand Theft. You can get a garage full of vehicles in Saints Row. Like, literally, that sold me completely on the game. The fact that when you steal a car in that game and you drive it into your garage,
it's yours.
It's now yours.
Nice.
And for the rest of the game, if you go into your garage, you can scroll through the list and grab any car that you had previously stolen. And then you can, like, if you want, you can, like, trick it out and put all the paint job and whatnot. But honestly, these cars move so fast and you don't need the nitro boost that they make available. But it is kind of funny to see the way people individualize their vehicles. I'm talking, you could put spinners on.
Some hydraulics.
Yeah, dude, seriously, hydraulics actually is in there. But that alone made Saints Row my go-to sandbox crime game. And then, years later, Grand Theft Auto 4 comes out, and they still haven't implemented that feature. You still have to just jack a car, and still, a whole new generation of gaming systems, and you're still dealing with the problem that when you go into an area filled with vehicles, however the code works in the game, you will only see those kinds of vehicles for an extended period until some underlying code sequence causes there to be a switch. Like, if you go into a ritzy area in the game, typically there's more ritzy vehicles.
Yeah.
But if you drive into a ritzy area in a shit vehicle, there tends to just be copies of your shit vehicle. which was awful. I spent the second half of my game in Grand Theft Auto 4. I would always save in this one apartment in the quote-unquote Manhattan portion because it was next to an exotic car dealership. Just so that I could walk out of my apartment and go steal a car from a decent place every time. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Saints Row. I mean, I'll admit, they started out fun and irreverent, you know, and they now are like, it's insane. The like at one point, I think I can't remember if it was 2 or 3. You start I think it was 2. You start the game by spraying shit on people from a sewage truck. Like, seriously. Then at one point you ride around on a bike, catching people on fire with Molotovs, and you can like do one of the best mini games in Saints Row for me, maybe not for everybody, is insurance fraud. You have to walk into traffic and get knocked out, and you will go sailing, and however much damage happens to you, it dictates the like that. They track that. There's like pimping, where you got to go steal prostitutes from other people. That's kind of fun, but the only downside of those mini games is it's an escalation model. So first level you do this, and then it gets harder and harder. But you got to beat the top tier level in order to unlock the thing. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. The real point is, dude, you're not telling us shit we don't know. Like, of course people buy your games because they're this fucking nutty. Right. I mean, 4 million copies kind of speaks for itself. Right. In fact, I'm shocked that anybody might have suggested that if it had a more adult tone, that it would have sold more. So, the Capcom thing really kind of pissed me off. Like, I spent a lot of time looking this up. So they're saying they backed off their sales projections for Resident Evil 6 and Devil May Cry, the latest one. Like they're down now to saying that they'll sell 4.9 million in this fiscal year or some shit like that. It doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. Right. What bothers me is that they just pointed the fucking finger. One of the things that they said was that it was also because they outsourced so much of the content creation. Like they let other people make the game. Well, whose fucking fault is that? Right. And also, Capcom is the king of meaningless iterative sequels. Like, they literally release as a whole game shit that would be an update to any other company. You know? It's like, oh, look, we made it so this character doesn't make the entire game crash. Now you have to buy our game again. It's really bad. Yeah. I mean, the differences between like they had Street Fighter 4 came out a couple years ago. Then they made Super Street Fighter 4, which is essentially the same thing with 4 extra characters. They tweaked some of the moves and whatnot, but you have to buy an entirely new game now just to get those 4 characters. Now there is some kind of downloadable model with Capcom, but by and large, it's just costume changes. They want you to pay money so that you can have Ken and Ryu fight in different colors. Who gives a shit? Like,
are these $60 games?
The Street Fighter 4 was. I think that the Super Street Fighter 4 with additional characters was released at the $40 price point. Still, but even so, it's still a full price game. Now, let's go back to the 90s when they released, I'm confident, no less than 6 versions of Street Fighter 2. It went Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2, Champion Edition, Hyper Fighting Edition, New Challengers, all the shit. And it literally, the only difference was that they increased the speed, and the New Challengers thing added 4 new fighters. Of which, like, 2 were shit. Like, one was a Jamaican kickboxer, and one was this huge Native American, like, immense. And they already had, like, 2 really big guys already, and one was Zangief. He was, like, the Russian wrestler, and so this was, like, the other guy. Nobody ever used those characters. If you play as Zangief, you're a fucking tool. I'm sorry. That guy was useless. They have improved him since, but I tell you what, man, and back in the day when Street Fighter was out, nobody played that guy.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be Chun-Li.
We all know that the larger fighters are slower.
Yeah, it's always slower and more, and like all of his moves were like grapples, so you had to do like a full circle, grab a guy full circle, and he would do some flying pile driver shit. Mm-hmm. It was next to impossible because other people had like projectile attacks. So you just keep the fucker at a distance and he can't touch you.
Yeah.
And when he jumps, he would like because he's so big, the distance that he clears was just like it was like a bunny hop. It was terrible. But yeah, this is what they do with every fucking franchise that they have. They just pump out tiny little additions and then try and get you to buy it as a full game. Mm-hmm. Recently, they did with their Dead Rising game. I say recently, it was like 2 years ago. Well, it was probably last year. They sold as a whole new game that they brought the character, the protagonist from the first game, shows up in the same reality, the same area, I should say, because the first game happened in a mall, second game happened in like a Las Vegas kind of place. So they took the guy from the first game, put him in the mix of the second game, and tried to sell it to you. Like, motherfucker, that is DLC.
Yeah.
I'll pay $4 maybe to
Right.
use Frank West from the first game. And they put back in the photography ability that he had from the first, because he was a photographer, so you could take pictures of shit, and it would unlock achievements for doing. Who cares? Yeah. I'm not going to walk around taking pictures in a game.
Right.
So anyway, I think though, the Capcom's biggest fuck you to all of us was they took their Street Fighter, and it was the 25th anniversary last year, and they released a pack. Okay, now when all they released originally in the first wave was just pictures of it, and we looked at it, and oh my god, it looked phenomenal. They had this row of 11 discs across the bottom, and then 4 more discs that looked like might have been Blu-rays or something up against, and then there's like a statue of Ryu and an art book, and we're thinking, holy shit, Street Fighter 25th anniversary collection, we're getting every one of these games. It's like $80. We're going to get all this shit. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, for $80,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
Maybe it was $100, but even I still would have paid $100 for every Street Fighter game ever made. Hell yeah. Well, it turned out that those 11 discs were music CDs.
Soundtrack.
Oh my god, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? It's not even good music.
No.
Like, I'm not a chiptune kind of guy. I don't listen to 8-bit or 16-bit music. It's not my thing. And even if it is your thing, you ain't buying 11 discs worth.
No.
And then the games included were just a small slice of the more recent ones. It was terrible. They had maybe a 15th or 20th anniversary, I don't even know. They had another collection that they released on the PS2 a while back, and it was a much better deal. You can pick it up on Amazon now for like $20 or less. It had every version of every fighter, excuse me, from the Capcom fighting games, from the Street Fighter series. So, for those who don't play these games, that meant that you could take the Ryu from the first Street Fighter 2, who had only, punch and kick, and then a fireball and a dragon punch. And you could face him off against the most recent version of Ken, who has, dozens of moves. Like, you could mix it up. Like, that was a sweet idea. Loved it. Now it's only $20. But you want to make me pay $100 for a bunch of fucking music?
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it was pathetic. So we moved to the Peter Molyneux. And as I was describing to you, this guy has a history of just making outrageous claims about his games. And then none of those features appear. This is not in that vein for once, but it's kind of ridiculous to show up at a summit and say, hey, make sure if you're going to add free-to-play that it has to be in from the beginning. Yeah. Like, clearly it's worked. In fact, there's most recently, I think, Star Wars The Old Republic, multiplayer online. They, something like double or tripled their player base by making it free-to-play. Yeah. They switched it to free-to-play after and made a fucking killing. Nobody wanted to buy it and do the subscription model or whatnot. So, he's clearly not paying attention to modern, or at least current trends.
Yeah.
But anyway, The Nintendo thing, we don't even really need to talk about. It's Nintendo. They're just going to make more fucking Zelda and Mario.
Right.
Not that I'm complaining.
On and on.
I am one of those fuckers that will buy that shit. I think the only... Well, okay, that's not entirely true. I didn't get Skyward Sword, not because I didn't want it. Just wasn't the right time. Like, there was too many other things going on. I did kind of want it because it came with a gold controller, which is lame. No, you don't need it, but you want it.
Yeah, it looks nice.
You know, and it was for the price of the game, so it's basically free. But I have not touched the bullshit that they've been doing with the Mario Brothers. They made new Super Mario Brothers for the DS. I picked that up back when it came out, and I played through the bulk of it. And okay, yeah, it was an improvement. It was definitely a step forward for the Super Mario Brothers methodology, side-scrolling platformer. Neat ideas, that's great. But then they took that and they made a sequel. Like, how do you... Okay, you take Super Mario Brothers. First it was Mario Brothers, which was a shit game where you just jumped on levels and all the things came out of the pipes. Then you make Super Mario Brothers. And you make new Super Mario Brothers. Now, new Super Mario Brothers 2. This is like Rambo First Blood Part 3 kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I get that you have a franchise and you want people to recognize it, but believe me, everybody knows who Mario is.
Right.
Just put his face on the fucking thing and say, hey, my game.
New game.
And then they took that, and then they made new Super Mario Brothers for the Wii U. I don't own a Wii U. I can't even fathom how having an extra screen below would in any way
It would be too
improve that
distracting
game.
for me.
But I'm tired of that. Let's go back to the Mario Galaxy concept. Keep working on that. Now they're making another Zelda. And the guy says that what they do is they come up with a gameplay idea, and they flesh it out, and then whichever one of their franchises it seems to fit the best with, they make a new game based on that. So that's their methodology. Which actually, I kind of respect that. Like, hey, we want to try this new thing, and now, would it make more sense if Mario did it, or if Zelda did it, or Link, I guess? I'm okay. I can deal with that, but really when it comes down to it, if it's got Mario or Zelda on it, it's going to sell 2 million right off the bat.
Right.
Easy. It'll clean out. They'll clear the stock in the first month. Seriously. Who doesn't look forward to another Zelda game? Did you? Oh, yeah, right. Apparently Morgan doesn't.
Mario,
You like Mario?
I have one Mario game, the one that came with my my Wii. I couldn't even tell you what the name of it is.
You got a Mario with your Wii?
Yeah.
I got a sports game with my Wii. It was probably Super Mario Galaxy. Yeah, see? You were never into it.
That's how often I use my Wii.
I gotta tell you. Well, yeah, I mean, nobody... Phrasing. I will say that I don't use mine either. We have 2 in the house. Because there was one for the kids, and then I had one from other shit. There was no point in me getting it. I played it for a little while. There are some good games. There are. I won't take that from the system, but it's not engaging to me, and I hate the controllers.
Oh yeah, so do I.
It's awful. Like the first thing I did was buy one of those retro controllers that was basically an SNES, and then just try and play games exclusively that use that. I think there was one game, Zack and Wiki, that was like a point-and-click adventure. And that made sense to me. It's like, okay, I'll point at this thing and make him go there. That I'm okay with.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much it. All the rest of the shit, no. And, I mean, Wii Sports, that's for when your buddies come over and you drink.
Right.
Like, nobody sits around and plays that.
No.
That I'm aware of, anyway. But Zelda, dude, that is, man, from my childhood. I must have been like 12 when the first one came out. Dude, that sold me on a Nintendo. Like, I lived in the era when, and as did you, but like when we were kids, there was that gap where all the video games died.
Right.
Atari was just sitting around in everybody's closet. Nobody gave a shit anymore. And then the Nintendo comes out, and we still thought it would, it was just another fad, and it would go away. Like all little Tiger Electronics toys and all that shit. But man, I saw someone playing Zelda, and that was it. I was like, oh shit, I want this now.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the begging commenced. And the whining and the needling. I actually owned a strategy guide for all those games. It was one big, thick Nintendo's official strategy guide.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't own a Nintendo.
Just
that damn strategy guide. I knew that thing cover to cover, man.
When you went over to your buddy's house, you could...
Oh, yeah, I was the guy who could come in and show you where all the hidden power-ups and extra lives were in Super Mario. Then everybody figured it out. Back before the internet had speed runs, because we didn't have an internet. But the Zelda thing, I'll never get tired of. There's just something about that. It has this kind of whimsical quality to it that's just always kind of fun. It's more lighthearted. I find that in the midst of all the brown and gray games that we play now, I like to go and play a game that has a more lighthearted tone. Not necessarily in the gameplay or the interactions. I don't need the goofy shit, the dialogue that happens. But, like, most recently with the Dead Island, was it? I love the whole opening of that, because you were on a fucking beach.
Right.
Giant expanses of water and blue sky.
Birds.
Yeah,
sunshine.
It was a place I actually wanted to be. That was, I don't think that Super Mario Sunshine, I don't think that did very well historically within the series. But I loved it because it was an island resort with freaking Mario. I thought that was great. And he's running around spraying water. Like every time I did, I'm like, I would hang out here. This is nice. So yeah. But in stark contrast to that are the games like Gears of War and Fallout 3. And I'm just like, I walk into them and I'm depressed immediately. I'm just like, I don't want to be here. Like I finished the game simply because I want these guys to get this shit done and get out of here. Yeah. Where's the vacation spot? That would be sweet. Let's take Gears of War on their R&R.
Yeah.
Have those guys on some awesome paradise planet, kicking it back, having some beers, and then they get invaded. And let's fight through that scenario. Yeah. That would be awesome. I would play that. I won't buy any more Gears of War until that happens. Just putting that out there.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah. So, the guy from DICE, former employee of DICE, it turns out he actually was involved in the 2142. So he's talking shit. Why don't you make... Well, maybe part of the reason that they haven't made another one set in that is because that one sold dick.
Yeah.
And you were directly responsible for that, Mr. Van Dyke. So maybe it's not so much about a balls thing as it is a quality issue. But, I mean, that's basically you just want to make another Halo, is what he's suggesting there. So, fuck that. And the Arkane Studios with the Dishonored content, I was interested in it. I really was. I wanted to do it. It's a stealth game. We've discussed this game previously. This, though, lets you play through as the antagonist from the original game. And it seemed to be... I have not picked it up because I discovered this, that it's only the first part of a story. And it's $10 to get only a partial story. I don't do that. I'm not necessarily stating that I wouldn't pay that, but I'm not going to pay that and play through and then wait 6 more months until I get to finish it. Like, I waited for the Telltale games, Walking Dead. I didn't touch that shit till they were all out. Same with all of the Telltale things. Like, Telltale had the Sam and Max series and then the Back to the Future. Won't touch it until it's complete. Or at least reaches a significant drop-off point. Like, they set it up like as a season. So at least get me to the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I'm that douchebag that won't even watch the TV show. I wait until the whole season's out on Netflix.
And then watch it in one weekend.
Oh, yeah. I hate the waiting week by week. I would rather just go and do my own thing for a couple months and then come back to my DVR and have, 15 episodes of something to watch.
Yeah.
And maybe this is an indicator of my own odd psychological profile, but I won't watch the last episode that I have recorded. I won't do it. If I have a series of shows, I won't watch the last one. I will
until
wait
you have
until
another
there's more.
stockpile on top
Just
of
in
that.
case that it's some kind of fucking cliffhanger. I'm not going to put myself through that. There have been, I kid you not, there have been shows that I have the final episode of the season, and I won't finish it because I know they're going to leave me hanging. So I technically leave myself hanging, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Except that the only difference is that typically the show the penultimate show, just before that last season show, they wrap a lot of shit up to lead into the next one. Mm-hmm. So it's never really as much of a cliffhanger.
Right.
You know, I think that probably what did that to me was when Picard was captured by the Borg and turned into one when I was a kid. Saw that episode and it's like, what the fuck? And then it's the end of the season? Yeah. Are you fucking crazy? So yeah, I will never let Locutus from Borg fuck me on a storyline again. Is what that is really boils down to. Wow, did I just go Star Geek on that one, huh? Don't even watch Star Trek. That actually, I think, kind of ruined it for me.
I did when I was a kid. I don't now.
Yeah?
No.
I didn't touch the Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. The whole premise. I'm like, okay, this is about exploring space. You're stuck on a base that doesn't move. I don't care that you got some mystical portal over here that lets some of you go places. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we're just sitting around in HQ waiting for shit to go down.
Yeah.
No interest.
Playing cards, dominoes.
Yeah. Apparently the ending of that thing was awesome. Like, they had a big war and there was all kinds of battles and whatnot. But I'm sorry, I ain't waiting through 9 seasons or whatever to get to the one set of episodes that are decent. I did watch Voyager, largely because it felt more Star Trek-y. And then they introduced that Borg chick, 7 and 9. Seriously, you're going to walk a girl around in a silver skin-tight suit? Of course guys are going to watch that.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Now, as an adult, looking back on that, I'm like, okay, that was a little juvenile. You know. But hey, it works for Saints Row, so fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it.
It sells! So, we are now going to take a break, because we have reached that time in the Breakfast Blend. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the Breakfast Blend. When we left you, we were finishing up with Dishonored. Probably not, but fuck it, I'm moving on. The last piece of official news that we discussed was the library in Illinois. I think this is awesome. And not just because I want to find a fucking library that I can rent games from. Because where the hell is that library?
Yeah.
For those of you in Illinois, it's near you. Find it. The idea... Okay, here's what I'll say. I think that oh my god. Hey! Let's get this thought out, shall we? Okay, I think that citizens group, that little movement, I think they had the right heart in the right place. I agree with the idea that they don't want just any kid to just be able to walk in and get a game that's fucked up or violent. Mm-hmm. That's fair. Now, but on the other side of this, the library does not carry adults-only titles. So none of those games, not that there's a ton of those, but if you get a mature game, an M-rated game, you have to be 17 or older, which is what those ratings indicate anyway. And if you're not 17, you have to be accompanied by an adult who says that it's okay. So they're already following the letter. They're probably doing a better job of it than any game store out there.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure they are.
As much as I appreciate that these people, apparently the guy in charge of this, you know, he was, according to him, he was responding to the call by the president to help stamp out gun violence.
Really?
Yeah. So, okay, I get where you're coming from, and I like your sentiment. Maybe you work with the local police department and, you know, do some crime watch in your neighborhood, stop actual violence and gun crime, not necessarily go
to the library.
Yeah.
Bitch at the librarian.
This is the new version of book burning, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, since we don't have books, the shit's all digital, we're going to burn your computer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that they focused on the right thing in this scenario. Like, they clearly didn't do their homework. This library is doing everything right. Mm-hmm. So they should have gone somewhere else. I'm sure there was a shitty gaming store nearby. That
right down the road.
Yeah. Probably across the street.
Where there's an 18-year-old kid selling games that don't give a shit.
Yeah, to 5-year-olds. Yeah. Hey, you'll love this one. You get to kill prostitutes. Not that people in Illinois talk like that. I don't even know
Maybe
what
they
it is.
do.
I don't know.
I've never been to Illinois.
What is a Chi-Town accent? I have no idea. I'm gonna have to watch The Untouchables again tonight. Where Sean Connery fakes a shitty Irish accent.
Yeah.
Like, how does a guy from Wales not be able to pull off an Irish accent? Anyway, that was literally the end of the news. I have nothing else to add.
Nothing else?
Is that? Are you amazed? You
I
should
am
be,
amazed.
because
I am amazed.
I can just run at the fucking mouth, can't I? Holy shit! So you have PSN for us, correct?
PSN. They updated it after our Wednesday show. They did it late.
Like late in the day?
Late at night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they kept tweeting
Well, that was
about...
probably early for them. I mean, they are in Japan, right?
Yeah, they kept tweeting about how they were sorry that it wasn't turning out the way they wanted it to. So...
They were apologetic in their tweets.
But hold on, it's coming. So, the free game is malicious. Never played it.
Malicious?
Malicious.
Don't know it.
I didn't have a chance to check it out on YouTube or,
Oh, this is like the
gameplay.
free game that you get with your PlayStation Plus access?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I've never even heard of that, which that surprises me that I haven't heard of a fucking game at this point. So while you continue, I'm going to look it up.
And also, there's a huge Grand Theft Auto sale going on right now. You can either buy most of the games for $9.79 a piece. The Grand Theft Auto 3 and... Was it Vice?
Okay, so
Vice.
Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, San
Vice
Andreas,
City.
and then 4.
Those two, 3 and Vice City, are $4.89 a piece.
Less than $5. Now,
Less than $5.
Is that with a PlayStation Plus subscription?
Yes.
So they're a little more on the regular?
Right. Or you can buy the Ultimate Edition for $14.69.
What is included in the Ultimate Edition?
Everything.
Really?
Yeah. So, you could either buy them individually and waste a bunch of money, or...
Yeah, I mean, I have them all in different systems.
Mm-hmm.
I once bought a Grand Theft Auto compilation pack for the 360, which I still occasionally pop into. I mean, not for the 360, for the Xbox, the original Xbox. And then I occasionally pop it into the 360 because it's one of the handful of games that actually plays from that. Because they didn't make it backwards compatible; they just made a handful of games compatible, and that's on the list. Plus, I loved San Andreas. Still do.
Oh, yeah.
I love Vice City because I'm an 80s whore. But and the music was fantastic, the look was perfect, but it's difficult and not in a fun way. Like the cops go, like in the previous game, once you hit 3 stars, the cops are pretty persistent.
Yeah.
In Vice City, you hit 2 stars, and they are as nuts as they were at 4
They have
stars.
the SWAT team out.
Seriously, every fucking cop you pass he's not just coming after you. He is suicidally chasing you. He crashes through pedestrians, goes through vehicles, just... Oh my god, it was like, you can't get away from him. At least in the previous one, like, they'd give you a chase, but if you got away, you could go and find a star and lower, or just, go back and paint. You don't even get the opportunity in Vice City. Way too hard. I ended up spending most of my gameplay time on Vice City after you get access to everything. I got a little palatial estate. It was basically like a riff on Scarface. On, I think it was called Starfish Island, which now later in my older years I realize what these references are about. But no, that I would just go in, show up in that place, grab some weapons, and I would go to the front gate. And I would just shoot joggers that were going through the neighborhood until the cops would show up.
Yeah.
Then I would just kill cops until SWAT would show up. And then they'd drop in
and then the choppers.
But what you could do... Oh, I remember what it was, is I would get in a limo that's at this place, and I would drive it down to the end of the driveway to block the driveway coming in. And then it would eventually get blown up, but it's still an obstruction. And then all the other vehicles around would blow up. And so none of them could get to me, so they would have to come in by helicopter. And then I'd switch over to the Magnum handgun, which is a one-shot kill, and I just kill the guy as soon as he landed. Boom, boom. And I would just try and play that for as long as possible, just sitting on my little grassy knoll on my own property, just killing everybody. And you could do it for a long time. And that's basically what that game became to me, Vice City. That's all it was. I never finished it. That's what I ended up doing because I just hated how much the cops... And they really pushed the racing element in that one. I fucking hate that. Oh my... Do you play racing games?
No.
Like just a racing game?
Mm-mm.
How do you feel about racing games included in a non-racing title?
No, thank you. I don't want it. If I wanted to play a racing game, I would buy a racing game.
Yeah. I particularly don't like it in these open world games where they take into account all the physics of the topography. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, you come around a corner and it's there's a pothole or something, and then suddenly you're skidding out sideways or whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Rolling
not fun to
the
me.
car.
Or the random traffic thing. Like, in Burnout, that was fun because it was included. It was a whole part of it, the idea that, the realistic nature of crashing. But that was made a focus. When it's in these games, like, you've just slapped this shit on, and me winning these racing games is very little to do with my own skill, much more with if some kind of random environmental thing will take out my competition.
Yeah.
Because even if you get ahead, they do that rubber band thing, where suddenly they're right behind you again.
Right.
It's like, really? I knocked you off the road sideways back there, and yet somehow you're right on my ass again?
Yeah.
And I never screwed up?
If it happened to you, you would be in 7th place by the end of the
Oh,
game.
yeah, and it's over, and you just restart the fucking mission, because that's what we do. I do it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't... Why would I play through to get 12th place when I could just restart and win?
Yeah.
So, yeah. The Grand Theft Auto, though, like under $15 for the whole kit and caboodle. That's awesome. It really is. I'm as much as I shit on Grand Theft Auto, at $15, it's fun. Just, you're going to get annoyed like a motherfucker by all the cell phone calls. They went way too far with that in Grand Theft Auto 4. But anyway, what's next?
GameStop. GameStop is now doing a trade-in promotion.
Okay.
Take in 2 games and get Injustice or Dead Island Riptide for free.
I will take Riptide. Fuck Injustice. No interest.
Yeah, I would go for Riptide as well. Just to name a few games: BioShock Infinite, Gears of War, Legends of Zelda, MLB 13, The Show. If you want to check out the rest of the details, go to GameStop.com.
Now, that's interesting. I'm trying to think of the business model there. Now, that is a good deal for people who have these games and no longer wish to play them. That works out really well. You trade in 2, you get 1 brand new. That's almost unheard of, considering GameStop's normal trade-in policies.
Right. And you're trading in How long have these games been out now?
Well, yeah, I think you mentioned Super Mario Galaxy 2, right? So
Yeah.
that's been a few years, but ultimately the bulk of them are more recent titles or titles with significant longevity. Like the Mario titles, they still sell at a premium. Playing back right into our earlier news.
Yeah. So you're trading in 2 $40 games, maybe?
Well, you're not going to get that from them.
No,
But-
absolutely not.
But if you were to purchase them, BioShock, no. Like, that's brand new. But the Gears of War, that's almost brand new. Yeah, that's relatively new, I should say.
Tiger Woods PGA Tour 14.
Yeah, that's pretty new. But it's, man, I don't know. The Tiger Woods thing, I don't know that anyone would want to trade that in until the next one comes out, because that's not, you don't beat that game.
Right.
You just keep doing it.
Yeah.
But
Same with MLB.
Right.
know.
Yeah, that's the newest one. That was a recent addition as well. But I'm trying to think, financially, they don't make all that much off of new game sales. Okay? So I'm wondering, they're never going to do something that they don't profit from. That's just the
Right.
beginning and end of that. So that means that the profit that they normally acquire from any 2 of those games so far outstrips any profit they get from a new game that makes financial sense.
Yeah.
So they rape you so regularly
Yeah.
on used games, and to such a degree that they can hand you a new game because the difference to them is negligible.
Right.
That's really, really amazing. That really begs the question, how much do they pay for a new game? Like, I had a buddy who was loss prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Or some giant merchandise chain. And it was his job to account for losses.
Right.
And he wasn't allowed to tell me specifics, but he did tell me that in the electronics department in particular, that they would replace things so regularly because they bought that shit so dirt cheap. Like, the up sale on electronics is so significant. Like, he was mentioning some items that were like, we're talking, they pay less than 50% of what they charge. That's insane.
Crazy, yeah.
Like, no wonder these places make that. But that also means that that if you were able to buy directly from the producer, you know, like, and sometimes you can do that with some, which means they must be making a fucking fortune.
Yeah.
If you buy directly from them, because they aren't allowed to undercut the retail price. Mm-hmm. The suggested retail price has to be maintained, otherwise they'd kill all these other retailers and then no one would carry them and blah blah blah. But that means that whatever price that they purchase those games new at is well below their profit margin on reselling of these things. So, what do you think? I think you get something like, for a really, really new game, you can get something like $30. Mm-hmm. Like BioShock, you probably get $30. But they're going to resell it for just $5 less than what it cost new.
Yeah.
So that's like $25. So, yeah. So if you did that twice, that's $50 of pure profit for them. Whereas the original game, if we base it on my friend's model, which is probably not accurate, but, you know, or not necessarily the case here, but if they're only paying $25 for it, even if they were paying, God, if they were paying $10 for it, for a game, and then reselling it, they're still making more from reselling those two.
Yeah.
Wow.
My guess is it would be anywhere between 10 and 15, I think. That's my own guess, you know.
I'm willing to say that they probably cough up at least 50% of the price of the game itself in order. So, you know, $30. So that means, a $30 profit on a new game versus a $50 profit on two used games that they know they can sell.
Right.
Which that's what that shit is right there. I mean, like we said, Super Mario may be old, but it still sells.
Right.
You can't keep that shit in stock. Everybody loves Mario.
And Zelda was on there, too.
Oh, yeah. That one's definitely probably a big one. You got anything else, PSN?
Nope. That is it.
Yeah, I got nothing for the for the Xbox. Not because, you know, I don't love them, but there's just nothing going on. I'm a once-a-week update with the Xbox. I will say I jumped onto the PSN yesterday. First time in months that I actually went into the PlayStation Store, and that shit is awful. That interface
unorganized,
is terrible.
Gibberish.
Holy crap! What is going on in there? It doesn't make sense, and it takes forever to get to something. And even half of the finding it is just figuring out where in the fuck you should go to look.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Did you notice the credit card plug in there? They're offering a PlayStation credit card in there now.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's once you scroll all the way to the right after you look at the games and the movies and all that, there's an ad for a PlayStation credit card, which I'm sure kids are signing up for under their parents' names.
Oh yeah,
you know
it. You know it. And then racking that shit up.
Racking the shit out of it and ruining their parents' credit.
You had mentioned to me a problem with that hadn't even occurred to me because I so rarely used my PlayStation that they don't make it clear when you're buying what system you're buying a game for.
Right.
So, you know, enlighten us.
It's when you're on the PlayStation Plus, it'll give, you know, the screen of all the deals. Once you get there.
Right, once you
finally get there, they list all of the games and stations all on one page, all the consoles on one page. So there'll be PS3, there'll be Vita, PS2, PS1
Okay, so you're saying that the menu has them all lumped together.
All on one page, yes.
Okay.
So you see a game that you like, you click on it, and it turns out that it's for the Vita, and you want it for PS3.
And there was no indicator until you got...
Just tiny little thing down in the left-hand corner.
Yeah, I'm not...
that I don't really pay attention to. I pay attention to the picture of the game.
Right, because you own a PlayStation.
Cost. Right.
And that's it. Like, that's what you play. And you have no interest in any of this other stuff.
No.
But then they kind of lead you on a merry chase until you finally realize, oh, I can't even get that game.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's actually a good point. As we said, you are getting back into gaming. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there. Yeah, I'm sure, there's the hardcore teenage gamers that are like, just fucking read or whatever, that are bitching. Like, but they are savvy and have been doing this from the beginning, and they check this shit all the time. Your average Joe just going in here wanting to play a game, and like you see things like, oh, I've never seen that before. That looks interesting.
Right.
You go, and then, oh, nope, you can't even play it.
Yeah.
Because you don't own that additional system.
When they split them up in the menu section on the left-hand side, they could split them up into...
Right, they should separate it by...
Vita, 1, 2, 3...
I should look at that. That sounds awful. I don't like the interface. It took too long. It was sluggish.
It takes forever to load. When you click on it, it takes forever to load up. You just see a little handbag with the...
Oh yeah, I just gave up. I was tired of it. Just trying to navigate the menus. There were so many pauses while it loaded all this imagery, and it's like it almost feels like they're trying way too hard to be visually appealing.
And that's what it is.
And sacrificing ease of use.
Yeah.
And I don't need it. When I'm shopping for something, that's what I was doing. I was on there looking to see if I could get a Battlefield, if there was any kind of special or sale or anything on extras for Battlefield. Because I kind of want the end game add-on, but I don't really want to pay, because I haven't paid for any of this shit thus far. And it took a whole lot of effort. It was honestly, it was easier to just load the game and then just go into...
Yeah, through the store on the game.
Yeah. But then I was concerned, like, what if there's... Because it seems to make sense to me. What if there's, like, a sale and it's not represented here? Like, there's no way for me to know. It's not showing that. And I'm not entirely certain that it would happen. Like, I honestly believe that there could have been, like, a sale somewhere, but you have to go through the menu system for that sale in order to get it. Whereas if you just buy the thing outright, like, maybe there was a bundle or something. I don't know. So, yeah. I feel your pain, but I don't actually have to put up with it. So.
Yeah. And they're not going to change it, so I better get used to it.
No, they might. I mean, they seem to be trying.
They just went to that.
So it's, you're stuck with it for a while.
On the 3, it's not going to change. They're coming out with the 4, so why bother?
Well, they might. They might, because the 3's got a big installed base.
Yeah.
And they can use the 3 to pimp the 4. That's what's going to happen next.
Oh,
Because every time you get on the 3, they're going to be talking about all the awesome shit that you should be playing on the 4. That's all the PlayStation Store is going to end up being is just
4 stuff.
Yeah, just a giant commercial for the other system you should own.
Yeah.
But we won't make it able to play any of these games. That's something we talked about. How awful that was. That with the PlayStation 3, they briefly gave emulation for the PS2 for some backwards compatibility and then removed it, which is just completely asinine.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, from a business standpoint, you have a huge installed base of games. Gamers, why would they want to have to go... It's idiotic to me. What, you want to try and force people to buy PlayStation 2s because they can't play those old games? Most people are just going to be like, fuck it, I'm not playing them anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I sold my PlayStation 2 and all the games and all the accessories I had for it because I'm not going to set it up and go back and play it.
I would love to see an explanation, because it has to be something to do with money. Why was it fiscally sensible to remove an emulation that they had already installed?
Yeah.
Like, I could maybe get that they didn't want to produce that, that they didn't want to go through the effort, and then, and it would be more costly because they would, like, add a physical, like a little chip and motherboard inside that was an isolated emulator that was dedicated. But software emulation, like, there's no way that's difficult to implement. Seriously, somebody out there, tweet me or something. Twitter, what am I? QA_Mac.
Yeah.
Fucking let me know why it makes sense to not make your customers capable of playing your older games on your newer system. Please. Ugh. Okay, that's my one. That's my mild request. Eventually, more than 2 people will listen to this, and someone will actually like send me this. I mean, 6 months from now, someone will listen to this and be like, "Oh, well, I have the answer," and I'll get this fucking PhD response that I won't even understand. But I'll have it, and that's the key.
Yeah.
All right, you got anything else?
Nothing.
All right. Well, this is the Friday edition of the Breakfast Blend. You've been listening to Mac and Morgan. I'm Mac.
I'm Morgan,
and we will catch you next week.